Whenever you're ready.
Okay. Well, let's get started. Okay, call to order for the Carroll Community School Board meeting for November 16, 2020. And first of all, the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll move to approve the agenda. I'll second.
Annika?
Yes.
Cindy?
Yes.
Jennifer?
Yes.
Dwayne? Yes. Karen?
Yes. Public forum, there's no, since we're on Zoom, there will just be,
We'll do the consent
oh, sorry, I'm
agenda.
sorry. Yes, consent agenda. I was going to jump ahead. Let's see. Any questions about the minutes from last meeting? Or bills?
Bills are fine.
Okay,
Good deal.
thank you. Questions on the minutes? Field trips.
I don't think there's
Yeah, I don't think
any in there.
I think
We just haven't taken that off the template, I guess.
Okay. So is there a motion?
You want me to read the resignations? I'll read through those two resignations that are in the consent agenda. We had
Number 4.
Oh, I'm sorry.
the two. Dennis McCartan wishes to resign from his head varsity football coaching position. Dennis has been a head varsity football coach for 17 years and an assistant for 3 years prior to that. And then we had a resignation from Molly Lang. She wishes to resign her head volleyball coaching position. Molly's been the head varsity coach for 1 year.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
Second. Cindy?
Yes.
Jennifer?
Yes.
Dwayne? Yes. Karen?
Yes.
Annika?
Yes.
Speak through public forum. Go to the organizational meeting section.
So,
Yeah, we can do that.
yeah.
Open the floor for nominations for the office of president.
I nominate Karen Freeline to be president for the upcoming school year. Or board year.
I'll second. Okay. Jennifer?
Yes.
Dwayne? Yes. Karen?
Yes.
Annika?
Yes.
Cindy?
Yes.
Okay. So, Karen, do you solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Iowa, and that you will faithfully and impartially, to the best of your ability, discharge the duties of the office of board president in the Carroll Community School District as now or hereafter required by law?
I will.
Okay, now it's all yours.
Thanks, Gary. Okay. So we're going to do the vice president next. Should we read?
I recommend Dwayne. I second.
Okay, Dwayne? Yes. Karen?
Yes.
Annika?
Yes.
Cindy?
Yes.
Jennifer?
Yes.
Oh, I can do that. Dwayne, do you solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Iowa, and that you will faithfully and impartially, to the best of your ability, discharge the duties of the office of board vice president in the Carroll Community School District as now and hereafter required by law? Two. Congratulations.
As far as the meetings go, does anybody have a recommendation for it on the meeting site, or should remain the same? Monday's okay.
Monday's really the best day for me, so.
It's been the third Monday
Right.
of the month at 5:30 here in the boardroom.
Does that work for everybody?
Agenda structure, I mean, we just,
I think that question there is,
Consent agenda.
Yes.
Yes,
Consent
have consent agenda in there for bills and that, so we don't have to go through every bill item.
Is there a motion to,
I make a motion that we have our regular meeting schedule on Monday, the third Monday of the month at 5:30 in the Carroll's community boardroom.
I'll second.
Karen,
Yes.
Annika,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
Jennifer,
Yes.
Dwayne.
Yes.
All right. The school board ethics, is that something? that-
yeah, and you know what? I think we're gonna have to do that next month. It wasn't in your packet. I don't have it in front of us to even go through. All I was gonna do there was just at the organizational meeting. Often, I mean, every other year it'll be possibly new board members, so it's a good time to review those. So I'll just bring it next month. They're in our policy. It's not a new thing, but let's bring that next month because we didn't even get it in your packets. So
Okay. Sounds good. Moving on to donations.
yeah, we had one. That was from Lear, used to be Carroll Coolers. They'd like to donate $1,000 to be used as the school wishes.
I'll move to approve the donation. Second.
Annika,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
Jennifer, Dwayne,
Yes.
Karen.
Yes. Administrative report, do we have? everybody on?
Just so let's see. I think did we go past? So school improvement. Look at your pad. This in here.
Sorry.
You get things.
Different,
Yeah.
sorry.
Well. Yeah. Yeah. There we go.
Oh, there we go. That's right. All right, so this is the school improvement.
School improvement report. So, but to your question, there won't be principal reports. They're going to present NWEA results, and so the principals are joining us by Zoom, and but we did have Mrs. McKenzie won't be able to join us tonight. She had something come up at the last minute, so we can talk about hers. It's in your packet, but she won't be here to present that. So probably got some people to let in here. Just a second. So I think Mr. Rabbit is on. Can you hear me, Pat?
I sure can, Casey. Thanks.
Okay, just a second here. Let me get it set up here for us. And board, you have in your packet the handouts. Yep, I see everybody's got it. So I'm projecting it on the screen, but it's not real helpful. But
Well, in that case, this data looks glorious to the board. It's I guess a lot of what we see here is to be expected with our layoff for the end of the year. Casey, you want me to go ahead? Okay, I'll pause.
I got to turn it up here a little bit.
Okay.
Let's try it again.
Sure. Testing 1, 2. Test.
Better? Okay. Yep, go ahead.
Okay. Okay, great. So the data you can see in front of you, or maybe you can't see it, is really to be expected. The slide with the time that we've had off. So we have seen a little less of a growth this year. As you're looking at the slides in front of you, this particular data is drawn from a median, which I'm pretty sure you know the difference between mean and median, but just in case we have listeners that need to have a clarity, the median helps offset if you have some severe outliers on the left or the right of your scores. that this helps give it more of a clarity into like how we're doing as a district. And so I can report on just third and fourth grade specifically. And the scores at the bottom of your screen, where it says beginning of the year and end of year, it talks about our norms. So we've achieved both third grade and fourth grade have reached the benchmark for the beginning of the year. For the norms, well, excuse me, we are just below the benchmark for the beginning of the year. We're sitting at a 188.48 for third grade and then 199.55 for fourth grade. So we're both about 2 points below benchmark for the beginning of the year for third and fourth grade. So I think we're sitting okay in regards to that. For the slide you're looking at now, I think is mathematics. Let's see. Yeah, that's the mathematics score. So we're sitting about two points below for third and fourth grade. Case, you want to slide up to the reading? Thank you, sir.
You bet.
And in third and fourth grade, you'll notice here for the fall 2020, we're sitting about 186 for third grade and 197 for fourth grade and 166 for second grade. One thing of note is that second grade, this is the first time that they would have taken this particular test. So that's why you don't see any older data. And it's also an unfamiliar test to them as far as the format and things like that. So we didn't expect to have a high close proximity to our benchmark. You could see that in the blue and the purple, which represents third and fourth grade, scoring just about 2 points also below benchmark for the beginning of the year 2020. At this time, I'll stop and pause and see if there's any questions.
Would you clarify the beginning of the year, would that be a spring test, and then the end of year is like this fall?
The beginning of the year is fall, and the end of the year is spring.
So this, okay, so to the 20, like on the reading here, the 204.83, then that would have been last spring scores.
204.83. Are you on the reading slide or the mathematics?
Fourth grade.
Reading fourth grade.
At the very
Okay.
bottom.
Yes, you're. Yeah, there you go. Yep.
And then the 196 would have been like at this time a year ago.
Correct.
Right.
Yes.
Casey, can you slide up just a little bit on your? There you go. That helps me. There you go. So yes, that is correct. 186 for third grade and 196.67 for fourth grade.
Yeah. Okay.
That's the norm, right?
Correct.
What did we buy for math adoption? What did we adopt the math for? What rates?
Into math, kindergarten to fourth grade. Now that may have extended to fifth grade, but I can't speak to that. Jerry may be able to speak if that rolled into fifth grade.
Any other questions on that for Pat?
Aiden, do you remember the numbers on that?
Anybody else have any questions for that?
Okay. We can cover the other document that I provided to you, Dr. Burlaw.
Okay, let's see.
Should be NWA at Carroll Elementary Schools.
Okay.
It's a little, now one of the things you'll notice on this one right here, as long as we're looking at that, Dr. Burlaw, is you'll see that it's color coded, and that's a following what Sue did for cohorts to follow that third grade to fourth grade in the red. If you start at the top, that red that goes diagonally. So the third grade in 2015 is now in eighth grade. Just for your information there.
Okay. And let's see, that's middle school.
Yeah, maybe
And that's,
if you look on your agenda.
oh yeah, let's go there. That's easier.
Yeah.
Adams 1 and 2. Here we go.
Okay, wait.
No?
No, looks like maybe this is the same document. Go to Fairview 1 and 2, right above it, Dr. Burlaw. there you go. Nope, it's the same one. It's the same document. So what I'll do for the board and I'll make sure that Mary has it, is that we have an average. We, instead of doing it median, we did it mean, just to take a quick look at our second, third, and fourth grade. And the numbers are very comparable. They just don't account for the outliers. And so when you look at a mean or the average, it's going to end up just a little bit lower than it would normally look. I think the median gives a more true representation of where we're at as a district.
Is it this one?
Yeah, there it is. Yep, it's correct. Yeah. So you can see the numbers are just a little bit different and a little bit lower. And if you look, and specifically at the 5-year comparison is the part that's really capturing my attention. And that is the steady decline from third grade and from fourth grade. Part of that is in response to a couple of changes in the benchmarks. And also, I really can't speak to yet exactly why it is continuing to trend in a downward direction. But I can tell you that as far as our leadership team, well, myself and Crystal and Ryan are looking at these numbers to try to identify what's the reason behind it and see if we can't curb this trend and start picking up the scores a little bit better.
I was always told 7 to 8 points is a year's growth. Is that still accurate with NWEA?
Yeah. Yes, sorry. And again, this one is average and not median. So it's going to take into account those outliers. If we have several students that are lower in their scores or several students that are higher in their scores, those will impact the average overall a little bit more.
What's interesting though is when you look at the cohort going down, you're seeing growth even though we were out since March.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. That's why I opted to look at mean and compare it to the median, so that I can just get more clarity around like where I'm at as a principal in my first year, my first semester, taking a look at the numbers. And I might just turn back to looking at the median, Jen, just overall to get a more, I just want the data to be public to take a look at in both versions. And that way we can look at it and respond to questions accordingly.
Is there another report that you have, Pat?
That's all it, sir.
For Adams, so I didn't show Adams. Do I need to show Adams number 2?
Adams number 2, I think, was the reading. Adams 1 was math. Let's take a look. Let's take a look at it, Casey. That should be the same. That's okay. The same document.
Yep, gotcha.
Yep, yep, I appreciate that.
Any other questions for Pat? Oh, okay. Yeah, I haven't seen him on yet. So but I here's middle school. I was just texting.
You want to jump to the high school? Cover that one.
Yeah, let me just check and see if he's on here.
I see him on there.
You see him on?
I do.
There he is. Yep, there he is. Sorry, I was not seeing him, but Jerry is on. So Jerry, you ready for the middle school? You got to unmute.
Okay, sorry about that. Do you hear me now?
Yep.
All right, super.
I'll pull it up here, Jerry.
Okay. And there may be a packet that went along with it, but this should be fine. If you can increase the size, that would be super.
Yeah, I'm gonna. Here we go.
Yes.
And can you, yeah, go to the first page on the math. So this is math NWA data, and we'll focus on the 4th through 8th. Patrick kind of shared the norms, and we're right at the norms. Just a couple things to take a look at. If you look at the spring 2020, and you see the dashed line across there, that's pretty obvious because we didn't take them in the spring of our last spring. So therefore, when you take a look at the line below it for growth of 2019 to 2020, you'll see the dashed line is there as well, and so that kind of tells you that we couldn't show that that data. But one thing to take a look at, if you look at 4th grade and find the column of 4th grade, go down to the fall of 2019, and you'll see a median score of 201. And if you would then move over to the 5th grade or the 5th column, and then put the cursor on 212, that shows the median score change from fall of 2019 to fall of 2020. So the median scores that we have for math are increased in the median scores as you go across. The general trend that we've seen in the past, and I feel like Sue Rook is with us tonight with this NWA data, but when you take a look and you go across, we had anything from a median score of an increase from +11 through +1. And like I said, the general trend as you move up in grades, that median change was an increase, but in past years, it gets smaller and smaller as you go across, even up into the high school years. And it just simply means that as you move up into the higher grades, the difficulty it takes to get a higher score as you go across. So that's kind of how you take a look at fall to fall. Obviously, we're accustomed to doing fall to spring scores. So if we can move up now to any questions on the read or on the math first.
You get a new math adoption for 5th grade. Is that the only grade that you have new out there?
That's the only new one we have out there. We've been using the same curriculum in our 6 through 8 series for the last, I want to say 4 years probably. The next set of data is reading for NWEA, and we used median scores for both. Again, same thing with being close to the norms, but again, fall to fall, and the median scores increased. General trend again, you'll see a +9 change, and if you would look at that, that'd be the 201 fall of 2019 to the fall of 2020, the 201 to 210. And then obviously the next fall to fall score is 208 to 215. And so as you go across, we get a little bit smaller increase as we move across on the NWA data for the reading. And they're pretty close to the norms, as Patrick had mentioned in his report. So the median scores, we are seeing a increase as we go across, and that was typical of when we did fall to spring. Any questions on that data for reading? All right.
You want me to go to number 2?
Yeah, you go to the second one.
Okay, this one is in here.
Middle school 2.
Yeah, not
There you
out.
go.
There we go.
Now in this report, this is taking a look at the scores as far as where the students would fall into percentile, and the categories are low, average, high, and high. And with the exception of fifth grade, where there actually was a increase, if you would match up the scores, you're going to find a decrease in the percentage that we would look at when we go from average to high average and to high. So an example would be if we looked at the 2019 math score, the total average and above is an addition of the average percentile, the high average, and the high. And at fourth grade in 2019 for fall math, it was 61%. And then if you look at fifth grade for fall for math, you could see that went up to 66%. So that was a increase of 5% of students scoring in the average to the high categories. Unfortunately, that's not the same for the sixth, seventh, and eighth grade numbers. If you would take another look at, say, for fourth grade readings, we see a total average and above of 64%. And then if you look at the fifth grade fall of 2020, you'll see 68%. That was the only increase when you compare fall of 2019 to fall of 2020. If we look at the others, you'll see that there's a decrease, and that came into an average of for the math anywhere from 5% to 8%, and then for the reading anywhere from 1% to 8%. An example of that would be if you could scroll up a little bit, Dr. Berlaw, and look at let's look at, say, sixth grade, or excuse me, scroll down just a little bit. If we look at fifth grade fall of 2019, if we looked at the math and we were taking a look at that, we'd find that we had a 66% for total average and above. And then in the fall of 2020 for sixth grade, because those students are now in sixth grade, it went from 66 to 61%. And so that was a decline of 5%. What that's really also sharing is that we had more percentage of students that were scoring in the low to low average area for the sixth through eighth grade levels. We do have science on there. I want to let you know that we started backup testing science last year. So that's new data, and we really don't have anything to compare it with.
Jerry, what did you typically see as a decline over the summertime? Like, have you looked at previous years to see what the normal decline was over the summertime compared to this year where we left school in March?
Yeah, I didn't look at that, but you're right. Typically what we do is we do have a drop off when we take a look at our spring scores, and then we compare them to the fall of the next year scores. We typically have a decrease, but that general trend is that we make that up when we look at the winter scores and then the spring scores of that following year. But I didn't look at those numbers to be able to tell you that right off the top. So,
are you planning to test in winter also, so to continue to do 3 times a year of the NWEA?
We will test in the winter as well.
Okay.
And our general trend on the fall to winter is seeing increased scores. The thing about this year's data is, in years past, we've always compared fall to spring scores. And here we're comparing fall to fall scores. A couple other things to think about is it's not quite comparing apples to apples, because this year we have approximately 57 students that are online learning. And we opened up during parent-teacher conferences, we opened up the building to have our online kids come in to be tested for the fall of this year. And we sent out notices to all of them. And we were fortunate to get 12 of them to come in to do the NWEA testing during that time. So we're still missing out on somewhere around 45 kids that we didn't test. Our quarantine students, we tested them when they got back. So we did get all of our quarantine students tested. But as far as the online kids, you know, we missed out on about 45 of them.
Jerry, why cannot, why is it voluntary for them to test? You said like 12 of them came in.
Well, it's when they go online, you know, I don't know if there's, we opened it up because they're not in the building, you know, for various reasons. And so we invited all of them to come in, and we were, like I said, we had 12 that came in. They took the online math, reading and science, NWEA tests in our computer labs on the nights that we had parent-teacher conferences. So I guess we didn't force them to come in, no. And I'm not sure what they did at the other buildings as far as those online students.
Did you take a look at those 12 students, how their performance measured against those that were in classroom to get a, you know, I don't know if that's enough of a sample to have a tell you anything, but you know, as far as their performance versus those that were in regular classroom settings?
I did not, but we certainly could, and I could report on that. We know who those 12 online students were, so we could certainly take a look at what their median math and reading scores were.
Yeah, I think that would be, and again, it might be skewed with it being a small number, but just to get an idea to know if they're, you know, keeping up or if they're doing better, or whichever the case would be, that would be, I think, kind of an interesting.
Yeah, I sure will. I can have that and share that at the next board meeting.
That'd be, yeah, I appreciate that.
I think it's interesting to see, Jerry, after you do the winter NWEA, to compare it to the winter from last year. And to see, because then we're comparing at the same time, you know, the same, it gives a, right now we're looking at fall to fall, and that's a huge,
Just a big gap in there.
yeah, in time and over the summer and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
When you get the winter, could you share that with us, compare it to the winter of the previous year?
We sure could, yeah.
Jerry, I have two questions for you. This is Karen.
Yep.
Hi. You know, we changed different tests. So is this the same NWEA, say for 2019, 2020, or there was no change in this test between the years at all?
No, the only thing that has changed, and it's been a long time, but when I first came here, it was quite an experience because we used a paper pencil format, and we had to match up the kids' previous scores with the paper pencil test. They were different levels. And so now that we went online with our NWEA testing, and we've been doing that for years now.
It's the same test. They haven't restructured the test basically.
It's the same test. It's pretty neat the way they do it though. The more correct answers you have on the test, the more difficult the test becomes as you go along.
One more question I have, kind of along with Dwayne's question. Is there a way that you could break down those tests to see whether they're doing well and when they're not doing so well, or no, you can't do that?
Yeah.
We can do that. And if
Okay.
you would scroll, hopefully I can explain that a little bit on this last piece right here. I wanted to show, you know, what do we use the NWEA data for? Sometimes we take a look at the scores and we look at overall grade levels, but we also need to understand that we use the data individually and as groups as well. And so the first bullet there, special education IEP goals. When we have our IEP meetings, we use individual NWEA scores to report in our IEP meetings. And it's a way to show progress for those special education students, specifically with goals in math and reading.
Yeah,
And then,
that's about
sure.
like math. If math, you can break it down and know
Yeah.
where they're well and not doing so well in math. But that's what I was really kind of focused.
Right. There's, for example, for the math, there's usually 3 or 4 different areas that can be broken down. And one example for math would be statistics and probability. And then the other might be, another category might be algebra. For reading, it might be informational text, main idea, and it would be another category. So we can take a look at those, and the individual profile for NWEA will show us exactly what those categories, where those students scored in each of those categories. So they may be high in one category, but they may be lower in a different one. And that goes along with the information here. I might run into that, and I can answer any questions at the end. Real quick, individual student goal setting. We go back. That's the second bullet right there. And if you've had children in the middle school, you'll know that our teachers share individual profile data with our parents during that time. And so that shows the breakdown of the reading and math scores in those specific categories. So in the third bullet, we use NWEA data for looking at advanced reading and math placement. We just started advanced reading. This is our second year for that, but math placement has been for a number of years, which allows us to have students, for instance, in 8th grade, be advanced in a math placement at geometry as 8th graders taking it over at the high school. We also use it for our, it's one of our components for gifted and talented placement. And then I think this might answer one of the questions that someone had. Our teachers also look at grade level instructional areas. And so that we use it for curriculum-based decisions. So if we see that students are in a certain grade, for instance, they're not scoring so well on algebra, that component, then we can focus on that. That teacher can focus on that area, say more than other areas. And I'm not saying that we wouldn't focus on those areas too, but they'll be able to pick that out as an area of concentration that they need to look at. And then we have our MTSS student concern meetings where we pull up NWEA data to see the trends. Those are kids that we're looking at, trying to figure out what's going on with them. And we might see, for instance, that their scores have decreased maybe from one year to the next. And we want to try to figure out why that's happening. I've showed you our template for individual professional development plans. I think that was at either the last board meeting or the meeting before, but all of our teachers create individual professional development plans. And so some of our teachers will focus in, and I'll use 5th grade as an example. We might have a 5th grade math teacher that teaches maybe 2 different sections of math or three different sections. And so that teacher can look at, say, the fall scores for his or her students, and then look at winter and spring. And that might be, say, a goal for them on their individual professional development plan. Maybe that's one data point that they can be looking at as to seeing if they're meeting the goal for their individual professional development plan. And then when we look at individual students, and this is one thing that Jessie Strong shared with me with her 7th grade kids, you know, if a student is proficient, that's great, but we want to make sure that they're continuing to grow. And so it would be concerning for a teacher if we see a student that's proficient, but only increases their score by maybe 2 or 3 points. That's a little concerning because obviously, one, they're not showing that growth and they're not meeting their, say, 1-year growth goal. Any questions that you have?
Thanks, Jerry. That was very helpful.
All right, thank you.
Okay. And then I'll just, the high school is a little different. This is what Tammy had prepared to present tonight. So for the fall of 2020 NWEA math, students test in content specific areas and math growth 6+. You can see that slide there. 9th grade math results. She's got those. Down by math 6+, algebra 1, algebra 2, and geometry. We got 10th grade. I think so. Yeah, it's got to be. I was a little caught off guard by that too. And then 11th grade. And then, so her takeaways from the data, she was pleased with the results as it coincides with learning targets that were missed during the remote learning last spring. So setting winter testing goals, focus on learning targets in the areas of need and what steps need to be taken for the lower scoring students. Those are things that her and their staff, the high school staff, are working on. For reading, you can see that students test in reading growth, which has 3 categories: informational texts, vocabulary acquisition and use, and literature. Growth reading, it's on there too. So growth reading 6+. Maybe
that's what the test is called that they take.
Maybe. I'm not sure. I don't know if Jerry has any idea on that or not.
I don't.
Okay. So that'll be one question we'll ask Mrs. McKenzie to clarify what 6+ is.
These averages, are those comparison to the state? What's the benchmark on, we say we're at this, certain percent above average or high average?
I don't think this test is, it's all about the benchmark where you're supposed to be, I think. So I don't know,
But
Jerry,
but that's a state benchmark.
it's NWEA. Yeah. Yeah.
As the kids get harder, as they progress, the questions get harder, and then it shuts them off after so many missed in a row. But it's harder. It's like a bell curve. It's harder once you reach that high mark to make growth really.
It's not like the Iowa assessments or that we're used to with, where we're comparing to other kids or grade levels. But
I just didn't remember what the.
Yeah.
What we were measuring, what was that average benchmark, what was that based on?
I think the math at high school is different because I think they only take them in those grades, and I think that the teachers determine what standards are covered in that test?
I
believe you're correct on that. When it comes to the specific math class, whether it be, say, geometry, I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe that focuses on geometry as far as the testing piece.
Yeah. Instead of just taking the whole math test, they just take the geometry pieces of it. So, and then she listed what her takeaway goals from the data and goals determines who's currently, they use this to determine who's currently in reading intervention program and who will be in the program next year. They're currently serving 12 students in 9th grade. Show students' strengths in 3 categories of tests, of the test: informational text, vocabulary acquisition, and literature. Overall vocabulary was higher than last year, acquisition, and English 10 and 11 show informational text scores are higher than literature. In the past, it's been the opposite. So, and then they talk about and plan for what the next steps need to be for reading interventions. So that's what she had to present, and I'm sure she would have been a little more thorough with that, but that's what we had from the high school. And we can have her follow up on some things on this for sure. So any other questions about that besides what's the 6+?
Maybe just clarify what the math is over only
Yeah.
over, and how do they do the reading?
Yep, I'll do that.
And if she says 12 are being serviced, what's the service look like? Is it like a title service, or is it ELL service, or what do they?
I believe it would be a class. Not there. We don't do Title I at the high school, so it wouldn't be that. It'd be a class where they can get at those areas where they're low.
And another question I'm thinking of, sorry.
No, that's good.
They used to have freshman reading, and this is the first year that they discontinued freshman reading, I believe. Did we see a drop since we discontinued that?
Okay.
I know it's supposed to be part now of the freshman English curriculum. They put it together.
Apparently they're doing Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah, right. So I'm wondering if, did we see, like, have we noticed if that was beneficial, that we should be bringing that freshman reading back?
Okay.
Or not?
Okay. Yep, we'll get those questions answered. You betcha.
Thank you.
You bet.
Okay,
All right.
moving on to personnel reports.
Yes. We have some recommendations for hires. For first, we have Randy Beeson is recommending Brock Jones for freshman boys basketball coach position. Brock's currently an assistant softball coach for us. He knows the amount of time it takes to work as an assistant coach. Will work well with the basketball coaches in the program. He has no paid coaching experience, so if approved, he would be on step 0 and would be paid $22.43. Jeff Cullen is recommending Jeff Boyer for a sub and activity bus driver position. Approval is recommended contingent upon a clear background check. Pat Rabbit is recommending Kristen Molitor for regular education teachers associate position at Adams. If approved, she'd be paid $11.44. That's a beginning wage of $11.22 plus 20 cents for experience. If approved, she would work 7 1/4 hours per day beginning November 19th. Jeff Collins recommending Jennifer Detlinger for the administrative assistant to the transportation director position. She's currently a teacher associate at the middle school. If approved, she would work from 7 to 4, Monday through Friday for 11 months, and be paid $12.30 an hour. And then we have a couple of volunteers. Randy's recommending Craig Roeder as volunteer for 8th grade girls basketball. He worked with the girls the past few years and would be an asset to the program. And then Randy Beeson is recommending Ann Vincent as a volunteer for CHS dance team. Just a little information there. There still is state dance competition, and we have an issue with transportation anyway. And so we're approving her as a volunteer to be able to help transport students to state dance.
That's going on this week, isn't it? Coming up?
It's coming up. I don't have the exact dates, but yeah, it's very, very possible. Yeah.
I'll move to approve personnel.
Second.
Cindy,
Yes.
Jennifer?
Yes.
Dwayne?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Annika?
Administrative report. I didn't skip you this time.
Nope, you didn't.
First, it's a red letter day.
Anyway, so approved early graduates.
Oh, yep.
No, Yeah.
Kinsey Hall?
Yep. So we have 2 early graduates that Tammy's recommending. And she's, of course, it's pending completion of graduation requirements. And I know she shared with me that both have a plan to either start schooling, a training program, or work to prepare for those things. So they're strong candidates for early graduation.
I'll move to approve the 2 early graduates. Second.
Jennifer?
Yes.
Dwayne? Yes. Karen?
Yes.
Annika?
Yes.
Cindy?
Yes.
Moving on to facilities report. Is Jeff on the line? Or?
Jeff went home ill today. Otherwise he would have been in the room, but in your packets, there's this sheet. And that's his written, and you didn't get to see it before the meeting. So if you want to take a minute or two and look at it.
It's not the best of news.
This contractor would not get the materials or could not?
I think it's
Because I know
could
it's
not.
Sort of.
Yeah.
This kind of makes the contractor look bad.
Yeah,
So,
I saw that too. And I didn't clarify with him, but I believe it's should have probably been
there
could.
is a big shortage of
Yeah.
building materials right now.
And are they having the facilities meeting on Wednesday or not?
Mhm.
They are.
I think when Jeff and I were talking about this, I mean, overall things are there's always facility issues, as you know, but overall we're operating pretty well right now. Our committee is meeting Wednesday, and again, we talked about this last year, but it's been a while. But the plan with that committee is we're going to go through a process of kind of doing an audit of the facilities from the perspective of the committee members. But the process that we're going to use gives us some guidelines. So we want our folks won't just walk into the buildings and then I don't like this or I don't like that color. There's a place, some standards that we're going to try to use to accomplish this. And then what comes out of that is eventually will come a list of projects that we need to do in the school. And it's likely that from there there'll be things that we put on our list of summer work, and we knock those things off. As you know, there'll be some bigger projects that may take some expertise of some contractors or consultants or those kind of things that we would need to bring in. And so, but as they walk through, and it's not just a nitpicky thing with this process, is the people that are in that group together, they got to come to a consensus of how they score things. And so then we should get, coming out of that, we should get some good information that's useful. And then we can create a master list that we can revisit. And, it isn't uncommon when you go through something like this that it may lead to, as you look at some of the bigger picture stuff, that, we need to have somebody come in and take a more in-depth look at an issue or a facility, that kind of thing. So, but we're meeting we were set to kick that off right when we got closed down in March and then never got back to it. And so we're meeting on Wednesday at 5:30 to kick that off.
Can you have a look into the parking lot at the high school?
Mm-hmm.
Because we had all those filled 4 years ago,
Probably something.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they look like we never
Yeah.
did that.
Yep.
Another thing that I would be interested in is to hire a civil engineer or some kind of planner to come in to look at flow, especially at the middle school and the high school, because now we're cutting off with cones, so there's one way in and out for the kids at the high school, which is fine when we're on hybrid, but if you fill that building up, bring them back from hybrid, we're gonna have a world of hurt in there with kids getting out and accidents.
Yeah.
And the middle school, I heard, can be very hard too. So I think we just need to have someone come in and kind of like what we did at Fairview. And
Civil engineer to look at the flow pattern.
like, it's just, that corner is so horrible anyway, because you have to wait forever to turn left.
Mhm.
You know how
I
that-
think what would work without hiring an engineer is have one of those portable stop signs in where it's a four-way stop instead of waiting and waiting and waiting. Yeah. And the other is either somebody stand there for half an hour and direct traffic. I mean, and I'm talking middle school. I have no clue yet about high school. That's in a couple of years yet. Middle school, you've got people coming from the 7th grade pod, you've got people coming from this way, and then you got people coming this way, and one person or a four-way stop, just one of those signs would roll out like they had a gluten.
You're talking out on the road?
On the road for the corner,
Yeah,
the big corner, that needs just a four-way stop for an hour before and after school. And I'm thinking you could talk to the city about that. And then on the middle school parking lot, as you're entering the road, you need somebody standing there directing, because for the most part, people take turns. There's always that one jerk that jams ahead, and then somebody who's, it was their turn is squiggling. It's just kind of, there's just that one spot, and it's really bad.
When you have young drivers from a high school going over to pick up siblings,
Mhm.
Right, yes.
and that road can get very, very icy. I
Yes.
learned that taking my kids to the middle school.
Yeah.
In front of the middle school, that road, not our road, the county road or whatever, is pure ice.
Mhm.
And with, and
It's real slick, and that's why
Yeah.
a four-way would be so beneficial. The other thing is I've noticed as kids are coming out to go into cars, they're just walking blindly between.
Right.
It is just, something's gonna happen. Yeah, so,
Yeah.
yeah, maybe sooner than later on that,
Yeah.
to look at the,
yeah,
my concern is the high school, the one day that I was out there when it was out, you know, they're in a mad rush because they have one way out. And
Yeah.
they all have sports practice at 3:30. And so they're all, I mean, there's
Mhm.
gonna be an accident. They're
Mhm.
trying to, you know, pull in front of people to go left, to go to the middle school, or they're pulling in front of people to go right, to go to.
but I've had a couple of teachers mention to me a four-way on that road, the city road, would be so helpful for anybody coming off of 29.
Mhm.
Do you mean that on Grant Road, right there?
Yes,
Right there, that corner?
Yeah, the
that-
corner between the high school and the middle school, that
Okay.
corner, 29, not quite 29,
I
but
think
you
it
know.
almost have to be a permanent four-way stop. I'm afraid if you put a temporary one, people who's driving by can also hit it.
Glidden people have figured it out. I figured Carroll people can figure it out, but a permanent would be even better, but
Usually those sit right square in the middle of the intersection.
yes, they do.
Or maybe the city engineer can come up with something, but I don't know. So
Yeah.
I just know our flow coming out of both those schools are, need help.
Yep, you betcha.
That's just gonna,
Yeah, and this year's unique, but I mean, there's, you know, it's a busy place even
Mhm.
when we're not
right.
dealing with COVID. So,
And the wind is so horrible there that in the winter,
yeah.
you can barely see
Summer, it's
across
bad.
the, well, yeah. Well, when it's snowing, you can barely see across the road.
Yeah.
You know.
Good point.
That's what we got from Jeff.
Great. So we'll move on then to second readings of the board policies. And,
Yeah. So, we've had a few discussions about some of the things on the therapy dog, and I think Pat and I talked today about this one, and we think we might want to wait and have the second reading table on this one until next month, just because we got a couple of things that we're working on. No major changes, but just some clarifications and trying to get some, like if we're saying that, for example, one of the last bullets says applications and supporting documents will be kept on file in the district central office and the buildings at which the canine therapy team provides services. So like that therapy team, we need to know what we're talking about with that, if we have it in a policy or if we need to have something different than team. So there's just a few of those kind of things on this policy that we're having some discussions about. So I think we might want to just wait until next month on that one.
How about the service animal? Is there any questions on that one? The next.
Yeah, I don't have any, that one, I'm okay on that one.
So you just want to pull the therapy 106?
Yeah.
Pull that one.
The last month there were some questions that came up about 403, 404, and 406, and I do have some information on those. So on 403, which is on employee conflict of interests, I did get some clarification. So the thing that came out that you asked about was the second to last paragraph is struck. It says there shall be no conflict of interest in the supervision and evaluation of employees. So I talked to Brett about that, our attorney, and he said the reason he struck it is this policy is on conflict of interest. That issue about evaluating a spouse or family member, administrator, or could be a director or whatever, is more of should be addressed in a nepotism policy. And so he said it doesn't fit in this policy where we're talking about an employee a conflict of interest in my role as a teacher or a staff member in, that you can think of a lot of other things that may come up. But that's why he's recommending we strike that, is it shouldn't be in this policy, it should be in another policy.
Do we have a policy?
I'm not sure that we do, so I've got a note to work on that. If we, we may not, their ISB has one, so I mean, they're out there, so I got a note to work on that one.
I'm surprised in Carroll we don't have one. I'm surprised in Carroll we don't have one. I mean, just with the community itself just being so related.
Yeah, no, but, so we'll work on a nepotism policy, because that was my first response too, is I'm not sure that we have one, so. But that's what that is. So on 404, political activities, the employee political activity. The question that I wrote down that you asked about was adding language about addressing bullying and harassment related to political beliefs. He said his response was he didn't, and we talked on the phone Friday about it. He said he doesn't think that needs to be in this policy. He said you have a harassment policy, and you would address harassment through there. This is more again about, as an employee, what are the political activities that you can participate in your as an employee here. And so that's what this policy is addressing. In terms of posting political circulars, distributing, you see what I'm saying? That's what this policy is more getting at. Bullying and harassment is, we have policies on those two things. And then
Would this cover if somebody was wearing a political button or something like that?
well, posting political circulars or petitions, distributing political circulars or petitions, collection, solicitation. I don't know about buttons.
Or a shirt or any kind of a wearable, or something of a wearable.
I mean, generally, I think, as if that would cause a disruption in the learning environment, then it would be a problem. And so, I think what in public education, what we try to do is you keep those things separate so you can appropriately educate kids without bringing personal beliefs or positions on issues or those kind of things. Right.
When I read through it, I did think about that.
I think it should be spelled out. Spelled out. Your title to your political employees off the top.
Mm-hmm.
Political thoughts off the top.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, no, I don't disagree. We had our attorney review it, so I think legally we're in a good position that way. But it's
I didn't know if there's something else that covered something like that in teacher handbook or
in terms of wearing political buttons.
anything of that nature. I know we have the inappropriateness of teachers and slangs and that type of thing.
Yeah.
I think it's something I only have to worry about every so many years anyway. So.
Well, and you never know. I mean, that's in the past we have.
Local race.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm not seeing from the national standpoint, something with a local issue come up or.
Yeah. And then 406 was the other one that you asked about, and that was on mandatory reporter. And the question that I wrote down was just curious about the reasoning for taking some of those things out of the policy that's on child abuse reporting. There's quite a few things struck from there, in the first two paragraphs. Really, and I did look, if you look in the regulation that goes with it, a lot of those things are included in the regulation. And so that's why he's recommending we take them out of the policy, because they're in the regulation. And there's a tendency when you have the same things in multiple places that over time they don't always get updated, and then you run into a situation where it says one thing here and another thing there. And so it's just cleaner to have, if it's addressed in the regulation, it doesn't need to be in the body of the policy. Now, as we talk through where's this? There was a place where we talked about that he struck a paragraph, and we talked about adding back the sentence that says mandatory reporters are required to have up-to-date training at all times, because now you have to update that every 3 years. It used to be 5, now it's 3 years. And then, some categories of employees can accomplish that through this training, and others have to do it through a different training. But I'm not seeing that on there. That might have been in the regulation. I think I'm thinking the regulation, what we talked about on that third paragraph that's struck right there. So, yeah. And then, of course, there were the 24 and 48. There's been updates to that. No, I'm sorry, Karen, the second to last in that regulation where it says within 6 months of your initial employment, mandatory reporters will take a 2-hour course. He's recommending we strike that, and we talked about putting the sentence, mandatory reporters are required to have up-to-date trainings at all times.
This is the issue with the hours, like said 24 one place and 48 hours.
Yeah. What is the new law? Well, he's in several places. He's just saying we don't need to have, it's spelled out. 24 is the word, and then we got parentheses the number. So in that paragraph, you're required to report either orally or written within 24 hours. And within 48 hours of an oral report, a written report must be filed with DHS.
And you're fighting through all this. Are you saying we should pull these out of our board policies because they're already somewhere, or are you just saying let's tweak them a little?
No, I'm not saying pull them out of our board policies. So
I got lost in it.
Yeah, in 406. So some of our policies, like 406 is the policy, and then sometimes we have an E1 or an R1. They go with that policy. So what he's saying is there's some things in the policy that are also in the R1, and we don't need to take it out of the book, but we need to say we don't need to have it said in 2 different places. The same thing. Yeah. So those were the things that I had written down to check on. So I think, my recommendation would be to approve second readings of the 107 through 813, and then 106 table it till next month.
tabling 106 till next. Second.
Dwayne,
Yes.
Karen,
Yes.
Monica,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
Jennifer.
Yes.
Enrollment report is next.
And this isn't you, I gave you this report last month, so it isn't new or anything that you didn't see, but it wasn't on the agenda. So typically we have an agenda item that reports the enrollment for the year. And so enrollment is finalized, and this numbers are, as you can see in front of you there, up 5.98 students. And open enrolled 96 in and 98 out. So, and that you can see the trend there. So I don't if you have any questions on that.
When we first saw that, we can ask about, check a little bit, just on the enrollment outs. I think it's just a little bit of
Yeah.
it seems to be increasing. Any, did you have any thoughts there as far as the trend and why, or it was just an unusual, bigger family or type of situation where you said some numbers moved out?
It's just that, I mean, what we've dug into is just, we have a couple places. What I see the trend being is just if you're in one of the communities that are on the edges of our school district and you might be closer to another, the most open enrolled out are from the Templeton area, and then second would be to Glidden. Yeah. So that has remained the same. Other than that, we don't have any other information that's telling us any different story than it is right now. I don't know exactly why then there's more, especially if you look back to 12, 13, there's more for sure. It is something I'm keeping an eye on for sure, just trying to look closely at that as they come in.
Does open enroll just mean going to a different school building, or does it include going on to like Connections Academy or something like that?
Yeah, includes Connections Academy. We haven't seen a sharp increase to the online schools. I don't know exactly how many I can get that.
Okay.
But we haven't seen that. It's they're to smaller schools around us is where most of them open and rolled out to.
But the Ingenuity kids are part of our.
Yes.
Okay. That's
Yep.
clarifying in
Yep.
my brain.
Good
It
question.
used to be in Templeton, right? Because of the one side of the street was Carroll, the other side was ICAM. So we have a lot of open enrolled.
And then again, our district runs clear over next to Arcadia as well.
Right.
Yeah. And then north and south a long ways. I mean,
Yeah.
So
What makes it convenient in Templeton is that because their district comes into town, their school bus comes right into town too, so they can get on a school bus there. That's why that's so convenient.
Oh, that would be convenient.
So,
You got both buses
Yeah.
right in town. And it's not referred to walk either any place in Templeton.
Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah.
Ms. Casey? Any more questions?
Do we need to approve the enrollment numbers?
I think so.
Move on to the general accreditation standards exemption request for physical education.
Yeah, what's linked there is the application that we submit online. Have to upload the board minutes, of course, but we've asked for this waiver for several years. You can't read what's in that box, but basically the reason we asked for the waiver is in order for our students to accomplish the 52 graduation credits. They need a little more flexibility in their schedule to be able to meet the 52 credits, to be able to take courses in some of the areas like English, math, science. And so we have a waiver that allows them to waive PE.
So it's for kids that make actually more advanced classes. You don't have schedules.
Yeah. Yeah, it's more about scheduling and being able to get into the classes. I mean, PE is a requirement too, but you can ask for a waiver. If kids are wanting to take dual credit or math, science, reading, they need to get those things in.
So it has
So-
to be approved every year by the student or by the school? How do they do it? They apply to the school for this? Or-
This waiver we submit to the Department of Education. We do it each year. This actually would be for next year. We have the waiver in place for this year.
So
It'd be for next year.
does the state require them to have a whole year of PE?
Yeah, you're
Do a
supposed to take it.
semester?
You're supposed to take PE every semester, if I remember right. And so
I thought it was 1 year.
Well, yeah.
that's what we have
I
to
wonder
take.
if that's because of the waiver.
Yeah. That's why we do the
So
waiver.
they're supposed to have a whole year, but they are,
I see.
Mhm.
the waiver lets them just take a
Gotcha.
semester and cover the
Gotcha.
credits needed to graduate
Mhm.
for PE.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Okay.
You can schools apply for a waiver for PE. Some have to apply for a waiver for foreign language because you have to offer and teach 4-year English 1, 2, 3, 4, and sometimes you don't have kids that take those, so you don't have the teacher to teach it, those kind of things.
Does Iowa give credit for PE for playing sports?
Well, so school districts can decide to allow a family to, in a previous district, we would do this. So you would keep on file if I wanted my child to take dual enrollment courses or other courses, PE got in the way, but they were participating in activities, we'd sign a waiver, or even if they didn't, but we're saying this is how the kid's getting their PE, their physical activity. So some schools go about it that way.
Well, when I was in high school, when you played a sport, you got a PE credit per semester.
Yeah.
So only one that you had to take was freshman, and then if you played sports, you didn't have to have a class because you were.
Yeah, Iowa doesn't operate that way, but there is a way that the school districts can choose to do that, to count that.
FYI, Jen, some colleges do that for if you're on scholarship for sport, they give you credit too.
Mm.
So it's a college thing. It comes in handy.
Back in the dark.
Yeah, I bet.
For personal computers, I didn't have to take PE my junior year because I used to take algebra too. In a conflict, so it's always been around.
Need a motion on this?
Yes.
Yep.
I'll
We need to
move that
prove
we,
it.
Apply for the education standards exemption application for 21-22 for physical education, grades 9 through 12.
Second,
Karen,
Yes.
Annika,
Yes.
Cindy,
yes,
Jennifer,
Yes.
Dwayne,
Yes.
Okay, the teacher associate agreements with Kemper. That's in your book, blue pages. I think.
Yep. I don't know if you have any questions on that, but those are the agreements for.
It's just the standard ones that we use.
It's just for the one associate, is that correct?
And
No, there's
3.
yeah, 1, 2.
3 of them.
Oh, I didn't see that, I'm sorry.
There's one that was like copied 3 times.
Yeah.
There's five, there's
Sue,
five.
Sarah, and Dawn, looks like.
there's 3 associates, but there's 5
5
kids.
pages, right.
The one associate has 3 kids.
oh, okay, that makes sense.
I'll move to approve the teacher associate agreement with Kemper.
Annika,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes,
Jennifer,
Yes.
Dwayne,
Yes.
Karen,
Yes. Okay, moving on to voluntary retirement.
Well, last month last year, we approved a plan for the 1920 school year and the 2021 school year. The plan's linked to the agenda. Last month, we said we would bring back some financial information regarding the management fund, so the board knew where we stood financially before we move forward with anything. So, you know, is that, Gary, is there?
It should be in your folder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There we go.
Says management over there at the top. What I did in the middle column there is the line item budget for this year, 2020, 2021. And at the top, you can see what our revenues are anticipated to be, as well as the beginning balance that we're carrying forward. And so you'll see the total resources there. Then at the bottom, that's what our expected expenses will be for the year. And you'll notice the first one on there, the tax sheltered annuities, that would be for last year's retirees. So it's always a year late. So it's $167,662. So you can see that our ending balance for this year is expected to grow by about 300,000. So then what I did is I projected it forward to next year in the right-hand column. And I tried to anticipate kind of a worst-case scenario. I decreased your revenues there at the top by 25%. So that's assuming that, you know, if you have if the state, depending on what they do with allowable growth and so forth, you might want to reduce your asking for the management fund for next year. So this anticipates a 25% decrease in receipts. And I plugged in the beginning balance, which would be our year-ending balance for this year. And then down in the expenditure line, I put in a 10% increase. Now that includes a 10% increase on the tax sheltered annuities, which probably won't be that high. But that also anticipates that insurance rates are going to go up 10%. Typically, we would anticipate about a 5% increase in insurance. Now, they did go up this past year more than usual, but I would anticipate that next year probably around the 5%, but I budgeted 10%. And you can see that the ending balance for 2021-22 will be approximately the same as what it will be for this year, even with the decrease in revenues and the increase in expenditures. So financially, you should be fine.
I don't have the document in front of me, but what did we say, maximum 20 or 25,000?
It's 20.
20.
You're talking in the retirement, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's 20.
And last year, it was the same, so, right? Did we take 8 people last year then?
Don't remember.
I think we did
I think maybe.
We got 167,000.
And it depends on, you know, who you get, because it could be administrators, it could be teachers, but it could also be custodians, it could be secretaries. That's why the cost varies. So.
Do we want to put a cap again this year with the number or talk about that?
It's already in the
Oh.
2-year one.
It's a 6, right?
Number
Six.
6, okay.
It doesn't it use the word something about so that it's well-rounded, like that they come from different?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that what it says?
So then in listening to, thank you for that, by the way,
Sure,
that audio.
sure.
You know, I took 2 years of algebra, but you never know it. If we took 8 last year and we said it would be 6 a year for 2 years, then we should only have 4 this year.
No, it's 6 per year.
6 per
What-
year.
Per year that we
The way
went
they
with 2 more.
typically do it is they set a number
Mhm.
and then they always withhold the right to increase it
Yeah.
depending on the applications. Because right now you don't know how many applications you're gonna have.
Right.
So, and this is just going by past experience. What they typically have done is if they could easily meet the requirements, they'll probably increase it to do that.
Okay.
But if there would be 15 and you originally said 6, they might just keep it at 6.
Okay. And
So,
that they is us.
yeah.
And we sometimes looked at like, if we didn't want 8 math teachers
Right.
gone, you know, or 8 administrators, you know, like,
Yeah.
we looked at that too, that it was. and I
That
think it was
that
really-
used to not be a consideration. We didn't care where they came from.
Mhm.
That has been a consideration the last probably, 6, 8 years?
Yeah.
Because it's becoming harder and harder to replace specific occupations.
Right.
So,
Well, one big change we did from a year ago was we had a lottery that drew or whatever, and we went to the
Yeah.
6 most senior employees
Mhm.
after the application period is ended. So it goes by seniority. As far as if you had, say, 7 people turn in and wanted to retire. And so we set it at 6, they'd be told, okay, year 6 are in, the 7th one would have to be board decision if we wanted to.
Okay. All right. That makes all sense.
And that was
Thank you.
recommended by the employees that brought
Yeah.
that to the board.
And at that point in time, we know, then we'll know what the cost would be, and that's,
Okay.
you know, kind of like, okay, budget wise, where we're at.
All right. Thank you.
And
Thank
you
you
don't-
all for clarifying it in my
You don't
mind.
want to go below $1 million, right, Gary?
well, we have been below 1 million before. One of the reasons that we do keep and we're not alone, most schools do this anymore. One of the reasons that we keep a balance in the management fund is for situations where we may have to increase the levy. This gives you some flexibility. We have run our management fund. We went 2 years in a row where we purposely lowered the management fund, and we got down to 300,000 or something. But that was our choice, and we knew that we were purposely lowering it. But I think the one year we didn't even levy anything in management fund. So
Basically, it's a matter of getting those funds to move over into the general.
yeah,
Because of the lack of funding.
it lessens your levy then.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So yeah. So that's why we keep a balance in there.
Gary likes flexibility, but.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what he's saying. Well, you
So
don't have
Gary likes
much.
options.
It's one of the.
Gary likes
few areas.
options.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
we'd be plenty fine to do the 6 as the plan says, and then
Yeah.
more come
Yep.
bring it to the board.
Yep. That's what we think.
Yeah, I think it was what, January
January 20, is it 20?
January 8th.
January 8th
January 8th. So,
is when they have to have their
Yep.
application in. So if it's approved tonight, we would get that out to the staff this week, and then they have up till
well, this
the,
is approved already,
right, but yeah. So yeah, you don't necessarily have to approve it, but as long as we're good moving forward with it, we'll get it out this week, and then they would have to have it in by the 8th.
Yeah.
But yeah, last year we approved it for
Yeah,
2
it's-
years.
it's approved. No, I think you should get it out. So,
For January, it's getting late.
It's the same time frame as we were last year. But yeah, I mean, the time goes fast between now, January 8th.
So
So
do you want any motion or anything, Casey, or just the?
I don't.
I don't think we need to approve it again. Gary, do you agree with
I
that?
think you're probably okay.
we should,
Yeah.
Just, get it out.
I think, given I think it makes sense that we review it and make sure we know where we stand and all that. And, we're the last, since March has been kind of unique, but the way things stand financially, we're still, I mean, if something would have went haywire and all of a sudden we didn't have any money in management, you would have the right to say, we can't do that, but that's not the case. So
I think it's good to review it before we actually extend it.
Yeah, and always good to have the money in the bank before you offer to give it away.
And one reason that we do it, I mean, it seems kind of early, but Casey and I will be working on the budget before long. I mean, it comes up quick, you know? And so, once you have it locked in as to how many we know, and by then, we'll know even most likely who those people are, then that's what we can plug in the budget to certify. So, that's one reason we're doing this order.
Can you see in our booklet, there's a SBRC application for increasing enrollment. Do we need to do something with that?
that'll be in under the business office
Oh, it's
report. We got it
it's
on there.
coming.
Yep.
Okay, great. So I guess one question I had is if we do have people that want to add, say that we decide to bump up the number, we have to come meet again and then redo this again. So that's another good reason maybe to have it now, I guess.
So on the 8th, well, January 8th, they have to be in, and the January board meeting, and we would bring the applications, and the board will decide we're holding at 6.
Okay.
Or we had 8 and we'll approve 8, you know.
Okay, that was a question I had. If we're gonna stick at it, or we're gonna possibly be flexible with it by January.
And of course, we'll give you information to help you make that decision, but it'll be the board. You have the ability in the policy to take more than 6, but we communicate that it's communicated when we send it out to the staff that there are 6.
For sure.
Okay, thank you. Alrighty, now we're moving on to the business office report. Capital outlay, video cameras.
So, in my pre-boards, I say we got a couple quotes, and we do. We met, Gary and Jeff Dvorak and Craig Roweter and myself, we met and reviewed those quotes. And I don't know if you've had any experience in looking at those things, but it's not the easiest thing to determine if you're comparing the same things. And so starting, we got some questions that we need to ask. So on Thursday, we got one of the companies coming in, and then the other one is coming in too. So we can ask the questions, and then, so I guess what I'm saying is I gotta wait till December to bring you a recommendation on that, because we're just not comfortable saying yes. And so, I mean, it's not gonna be a cheap thing too, so we wanna make sure that you know that we understand completely what the difference is in the two quotes and what we're getting and that kind of thing. So, but what we're doing is we're getting we have quotes for Fairview Elementary, interior, exterior, and also we'll have for the bus barn as well. And those are the two things that or the bus barn yard. Those are the things that we'll be bringing you recommendation on in December.
Now, do they offer design as well? Do they offer you a particular design? Or do they say you need X amount of cameras and you can put them up how you want? Or do they actually say, well, this will give how many feet in this direction? Or, do they offer the same types of things like that?
So those are we want to make sure we understand that completely. But so each company was taken to the facility, walked through, and we pointed out for sure some things we want to make sure that we get covered. And then, they put in their quote the best way to accomplish that. And so that's where we run into some differences in terms of what is this camera compared to that camera and that kind of thing.
Any other questions? Okay. Moving on to the Carroll High School Booster Club concession stand lease agreement. I think it was in your packet. I think
Yeah.
It was orange.
So appropriate.
We should have had this done in August or July or August, but
That's all right.
basically we charge them $100 for the year to use the facility.
Right.
That is a requirement.
Yeah.
We had it nicked in an audit one time. We must charge them to use it, so.
Yeah, that makes sense.
We
just wondering, seriously, why did they have to pay $100?
It's pretty cheap rent.
I guess it's a equal treatment, you know, we allow other people to use the facilities, we charge them. But I don't know.
I'll move to approve the lease agreement with Carroll High District.
Second.
Cindy,
Yes.
Jennifer,
Yes.
Dwayne,
Yes.
Karen,
Yes.
Annika,
Yes.
Okay. Transportation, the bus disposal.
Yeah, we have a bus that's got several issues with it. We didn't have it inspected when they came a month or two ago. So rather than just have it sit there and pay insurance on it, Jeff wants to get rid of it. In the past, we've just put an ad in the paper, and people submitted a bid, and we brought it to the board. We're recommending that we try to sell that bus using an online auction rather than posting it. Glidden recently sold a bus. Jeff told me that, and they had some more success with it than what we have financially. I mean, in comparison to what we pay for a bus and what we get, I mean, we're losing our shorts, but it would still go to the highest bidder. But I guess this Dan Schnoner, probably not saying the name right, Iowa Equipment Online, we would sell it through auction time. They have an auction every Wednesday. There's no charge or fee to us. The buyer pays that. It's a buyer premium. We take it over to this guy who lives south of Glidden, and he can take pictures of it and get the information, and then he holds an auction.
That would be a much bigger audience.
Yeah.
So do we need a motion on that to do that?
Yeah.
I make a motion that we put our obsolete bus on the online service outlined in Dr. Birdlaugh's statement.
Second.
Jennifer,
Yes.
Dwayne,
Yes.
Karen,
Yes.
Annika,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
SBRC modified supplemental aid request.
Yeah, and this, we're asking for your approval to submit this. Schools after enrollment's complete, you can ask for, this is an application for request the SBRC for increasing enrollment or open enrolled out or LEP instruction beyond 5 years. So you can see in our application, we have a request for increasing enrollment because of the increase there. And that 6.1 versus the 598 is just because of somewhere in our numbers, get point this, point that, and that's the difference why 6.1 is the right number. So that would be a 42,992. Also, we have, so when I say increasing open enrolled out numbers, so if we had any students this year that are on our enrollment that are open enrolled out, which we do, that weren't on our account last year, we can get the authority for them. And why that's important is because we still have to pay for them this year. So we will get billed by those districts. And that can be from kindergartners, and that can be from students that moved into, it isn't uncommon for somebody to move into Carroll, but they want to stay going to Glidden or one of those schools. So that's where that comes from. So that's a total of 102, 520. And 512, sorry, 512. And then ELL services beyond 5 years. We have one there, and that would be a total of $1,550. So the total request would, it's a pretty significant number, $147,054. Now you don't get that in cash, but you get it in authority, which it's important to have authority.
I move to approve the filing of the SBRC modified supplemental aid request.
Second.
Do you have to see the amount?
What is the amount, Gary? Who's I didn't know.
147.
Yeah.
So each one of the is okay for the increased enrollment of 42,992, for open enrollment out of 102,512, and for ELL 1,550.
Second.
Dwayne? Yes. Karen?
Yes.
Monica?
Yes.
Cindy?
Yes.
Jennifer?
Yes.
Moving on.
Correspondence, announcements, information.
There's one more thing.
I missed it.
E,
Oh, God.
that's a,
Sorry.
yeah.
Prevention.
So that's last year, if you remember, we submit, and it's coming up to start pretty soon to start our application for next year for at-risk dropout prevention. And last year, us along with half a dozen other schools, our request was denied. And I still can't tell you what changed, but I think there obviously something changed. The application was, in our case, like 4 hours late, 6 hours late, something. It was late. So the request was denied. So in the legislative, so we planned for this year and we're fine budget wise for that. And we'll make our request for next year and it'll be submitted on time. But in me and some of these other schools did some lobbying to try to get us to be able to get that funding. So now what this is on here for is on December 15th, we can go and me can go in front of the school budget review committee and ask for the money. And also I have to ask them to consider to waive a rule in the Iowa code that says that you've got to meet the January 15th deadline. And so I've submitted the artifacts that I need to have, but I have to have the board approve me making that request to the SBRC. It's probably, I don't know that I feel that it's all that likely that they'll approve it, but I think it's something that we need to do anyway. So, and the other schools that were identified, it's interesting that each of the schools that were denied and they were late, but each of them they either had a superintendent new to the district or they had a new business manager, every one of them. And so I just an interesting fact.
So we should be in like good.
Yeah. Well, it shouldn't have happened last year, but it did. But anyway, that's what that's for. And so I'm asking for you to approve. And in your packets, there is the form or the cover letter that went with the materials of what we're asking for exactly. And put it in there.
So when is this normally due, Casey? Are we on track to?
Yeah, it's due. January 15th is when you have to submit it. So last year, yeah, that document there. In December, we will bring you that risk request for approval. We did that last year. We did all that. It was a matter of hitting the button on the application that I didn't get it hit. So you can see, yeah, we'll make sure that we have that done this time. You can see the two things that were, or the two waivers and then the amount.
So do you need a motion reading this whole thing, Casey? Is that what you need?
Yeah, asking for approval to, let's see. Yeah, to apply for a waiver, waiving the rules related to the January 15th deadline, and then requesting the at-risk dropout prevention funding.
I just read off the letter. It says, I just moved that we request a rule waiver and supplemental amount, which is $463,462 for the at-risk drop-off prevention program.
Karen,
Yes.
Monica,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
Jennifer,
Yes.
Dwayne.
Yes.
Karen, a couple things here. Last month, Mary put financial reports on there and I didn't have any. This month she didn't put them on there and I do. So anyway, the first one, if you look, there's 3 sheets stapled together and it says summary of the CARE program. The first page is a summary and you'll notice there at the top is the Carroll R amount. And before you have a panic attack, we have overspent right now. However, what we have done is we have channeled all our expenditures that are related to COVID go into this account right now. Some of those expenditures can be moved out of there. There's a couple that shouldn't be in there, but there's also some that could probably go in this GEARS funding that is for COVID-related technology. Like, for example, we have $70,200 for computers in here. So some or all of that could maybe be moved. But anyway, as it stands right now, we are at $131,604. And then below that, you'll see Kemper Catholic School. I combined, the state always splits Kemper High School and the grade school. I combined them. And you'll see they had 77,680. They have spent 44,335. Then if you'll flip the page, I know it's a little small, but I wanted to fit it on one page. All the public school expenditures currently coded in there are detailed. And then if you flip the page, you'll see both of the camper facilities. They are listed as well. So,
How much are we gonna get from GEARS? Do you have any idea?
you know, I haven't looked into that program too much. Do you know, Casey?
No, but I can find it real
We'll
quick.
know much more by the end of the month. I know that.
So the CARES one is, we got the money up front, right?
Yes.
We don't get reimbursed.
Yes, we
But
have the money.
FEMA is you hope you get reimbursed and cross your fingers.
Yes.
That's FEMA. Yeah.
FEMA is about 30,000 that we're gonna request, and those are in a different line item.
Okay.
That, just from the scuttlebutt I'm hearing, you probably won't see that this year. So it's a long process. So, but this, yeah, we were funded up front. So makes it a lot easier. It carries over 2 fiscal years, which is a little bit unusual. Started last year, carries into this year. So
How much do we get up front? Is it this is
We-
expenditures, right?
yeah,
Yes,
we
expenditure.
got 122,634.
Okay. Okay, I know you said you overspent. I couldn't move it now.
Yeah. So
So that excess that, yeah, I guess you mentioned the GEARS, some of that will get coded or go over that direction.
we'll
So,
probably move some of that into that year's
you know,
program.
ballpark, what would you
No, I
estimate?
don't. I haven't.
I'll get you the gears. Oh, what you're gonna move? I'll
Yeah.
tell you.
We'll know more, I think, by the end of this month, because I believe at the end of this month, a report is due. And so I've got to finalize this as to how much I'm requesting before I submit that. We have to submit quarterly reports,
There'll
so
be some more buildings going forward that still will go into the CARE program.
there could be, yeah.
Okay.
So, I just kind of wanted you to see, you know, you had requested that. What
Yeah.
are we spending the money on? And,
The gears amount that we're getting, not to interrupt you, but it's $76,400. And Kemper gets gears money as well, so you would see a similar report for them, like he's showing you this year, or for CARES.
Is this the last type of lump sum that we're gonna get from the government, you think, with COVID related?
you know, I don't know. There could possibly be more if they do a second stimulus package. I don't know. It's hard to say.
Yeah, just curious.
How, I see the iPads on here, Casey. How are those iPads working? Do we need to look about purchasing more or?
I need to follow back up. I know that they had some good PD about with training at the high school, and Tammy said she felt good about the fact that they didn't go ahead and buy one for everybody because they thought that was a really good start. So, but I know they're getting used, but I will follow up with her and check on that.
This is really nice, Gary. Thank you.
Yeah. And I'll keep updating that as we go along. So then the next report is the one that has the colors on it. Yes, and this one is comparing our expenditures to what we published as our certified budget. And so if you want to kind of cut to the chase, at the bottom, there are 4 categories on the left-hand side. One is instruction, support services, non-instruction, and then other. Those are the 4 categories that you can't overexpend or you will have to amend your budget. And you can see then in the yellow boxes, that's the percent we've spent so far. And we are about 42% through the year. So kind of gives you an idea. And then kind of related to that, the next report that says draft up in the corner, this is probably more important, at least to me it is. This is our line item budget, which is what we try to stick to. And it tells you how much we've spent and received compared to our line item budget. Now, the reason it says draft is I've completed all the budgets for all the funds, but Leanne hasn't entered them into the computer yet. And once in a while, believe it or not, I make a mistake here and there. And so there could be some corrections, but this should be fairly close, and you can kind of see where our revenues and expenditures are at in each of those funds. The management fund, obviously, you're showing expenditures at 85%. That's because your biggest expenditure in there is your insurance, liability, property, and so forth, and we pay that up front. But otherwise, kind of gives you an idea of where we're at. Debt service, that is showing 0 so far, but you'll notice that tonight you approved 2 bond payments, so that'll show up next month. We're kind of keeping an eye on the school nutrition fund. I don't think we're going to have any problems in that fund, but the makeup this year is different because everyone now is on free lunch. And so we basically, typically you have a percent, and I don't know off the top of my head, probably 60% or so is coming from student fees. We're not getting that this year, but our federal portion is much higher. So it's changed the makeup of our receipts. And it'll be interesting because we don't know what's going to happen to that after the end of the calendar year. We may revert back to the way we used to do it, or they may extend that for 6 months. I don't know. But I mean, overall, we looked at so far, but it's early in the year.
On this issue here, under the management,
Yeah.
it shows the 120%. I guess the question is like the published budget. Is that a typo there, or?
There was a typo somewhere. What happened is that, and I didn't notice this until I had done this. We reported in our certified budget expenditures in the management fund. So I don't know if it was a typo in there. I mean, this is not what we're going off of in terms of our line item budget, and it's not going to affect. No. And the thing about this is you're only concerned about the yellow boxes at the bottom. So most of the expenditures in management are under instruction and support. In fact, all of them are. So we will probably be okay, but we did, if that 480, the reason that we're over expended in there, that 585 is just basically your insurance premiums.
Mm.
So you know there was a mistake because we didn't even cover what our insurance premiums were. So when I was going through this, like, what in the world? So I don't know what happened there. We were about a little over 200,000, probably short of what our actual will be. Well, on the line item budget here, this will be pretty close. On the expenditure side, we'll spend probably 675 would be my guess. And we budgeted 484. So, yeah, somehow there was me, probably. And you know, the frustrating thing is we go over that
Yeah.
so many times.
Yeah.
And part of the problem is, you know, I work on it, Casey works on it separately, then we compare them.
Yeah.
But part of the problem is we get it all done, we think we have a draft, then the state will come in and say, oh, here's the latest figures on, you know, assessments. So then you update everything. Then they'll come in and hit, well, we got new figures on income surtax. So then we redo everything. And I don't know if we got an old draft in there, I don't know what happened.
Will that require any action on us, do you think?
The only thing that would possibly happen, if we get toward the end of the year and it looks like we're gonna go over in instruction or support services,
Okay.
we would do a budget amendment. Doesn't mean you raise taxes,
Right,
anything.
right.
It just gives us the authority to spend more. But I don't think that's gonna be a problem, especially our expenditures.
We're
are
pretty
not
much,
real high so far.
So if we have, with the early retiree dollars, would that not add on to this number here?
No, because your early retirement for the ones you'd approved this year will go on
Okay,
next year's
Okay,
budget. Okay, so
sure. Yeah.
I don't think it'll affect anything, but we'll see. Well, I mean, we do every year, we keep an eye on that. And as you get into April, May, you check it and make sure we're okay. But,
with management, we're usually spend all of our time talking about the revenue side and we just,
I know.
yeah,
we just, didn't-
Yeah.
yeah.
No.
because we talk and talk and talk about what do we want to levy, and we pay little attention to the expenditures.
Well, obviously we did.
Because if the number's the same on here, it's expenditures, I'm just trying to figure out the budget.
Yeah.
Good enough. Thank you.
Announcements, conventions and meetings.
Yeah, Dwayne's got
Tomorrow
delegate
is-
assembly.
tomorrow's Delegate assembly. Yep. There's the District 4 selection of a representative for that. And the gal just got running out of Woodburn. So I'll be on that tomorrow night for a while.
Let us know.
Look at the money those vendors have saved in many coolers and stuff. Yeah.
Good point. I don't know how it'll go. I hope it goes well for him, but the virtual just is it's hard to make that commitment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
What are plans for doing board sessions and what's everybody's plans on that for like on Wednesday, Thursday?
I don't know if anybody signed up, did we?
I haven't signed up yet.
Anybody
I'm on a
know?
day-to-day basis.
I don't think anybody signed up.
I'm on a day-to-day basis at this point.
When I get registered for the delegate, I think that is soon. I think I might have automatically pulled me into the other.
Maybe.
Should we call Mary maybe tomorrow? And let her know, or?
I mean, if you wanted to get you registered, yeah. I mean, it's all, it's all virtual, and I think that does give you they record it, so you can have access to the recordings, but I found that I don't end up getting back to the recordings either, so,
Is it a requirement as a board?
no.
Okay, because I'd rather save money. I just know my schedule for the next couple of days.
Yep.
If I am out of order, tell me, I'll just shut up. But our governor had a press conference and it affects sports. She does not affect high school sports or college sports, but according to the Des Moines Register, outside of professional high school or college sports, Reynolds banned any form of organized recreational sporting events, including recreation league basketball and swimming lessons. And the text message I got was, what about middle school? Is that included in her ban, or is it governed, is it? And if I'm out of order to bring this up, but I'm just thinking.
Our website states that sporting and recreational events, so youth and adult group sporting and recreational gathering are prohibited except for high school, college, and professional sports.
Right, so to me, that.
So
would be
we'll have to
middle
check.
school.
Yeah, we'll see if it,
Sounds like they're talking about more of the club
Right,
sports or
club
the
sports.
Right.
Doesn't
leagues.
I'm sure that
the rec league
they'll be, we're not the only ones asking that question, so there'll probably be a clarification coming. Yeah. Because from the last proclamation, I know they had to get clarification on a couple of things, so.
Yeah, because I was thinking, what does that mean for middle school sports?
Yep.
Because
Sure. Okay.
We will find out.
Yeah. Suggestions for the December board meeting?
I know we'll have I made a note to make sure we have at-risk dropout prevention application will be on there.
Yes,
Yes.
very good.
Well, we have that one, policy.
Yep,
Yes.
Table.
yep.
Alrighty, so we need to move into a closed session for superintendent evaluation. Need a motion for that, if you would like to.
Go ahead, Dwayne. I see you reading.
I'm going to go into closed sessions conducted under the provisions of the Code of Iowa 21.5.1.I to evaluate the professional competency of an individual whose appointment, hiring, performance, or discharge is being considered when necessary to prevent needless and irreparable injury to that individual's reputation, and that that individual requests a closed session. This session will also be closed to comply with the confidentiality of personnel records.
Second.
Annika,
Yes.
Cindy,
yes.
Jennifer,
Yes.
Dwayne,
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.